Hey there, fellow explorer, and welcome to a special Espirito edition of the Deep Dive.
Espirito.
Yeah, Espirito Deep, you could say.
I like that.
You know, it's Italian for expert. Okay, so you know how we were talking about doing a deep dive on the Carnival of Venice?
Yeah.
Well, you guys sent us a ton of fascinating stuff,
A
and we're
lot.
going to try to, condense it down to the most interesting parts for everybody.
Absolutely.
Um, you know,
Like a crash course?
yeah, a crash course. And the Carnival of Venice, we're talking those incredible masks, right?
Costumes.
The costumes
Yeah.
and the energy, just the vibe that draws millions of people
Exactly.
to this, annual festival in Venice.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
So we're going to really try to understand why this festival is so important to Venetian culture and to the world, honestly.
Yeah, and we don't have a ton of time, so we're going to try to give you like a quick but like thorough look
Right.
at, the history and the key elements that make it so unique.
Exactly. So let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's jump in.
So first of all, when we're talking about the Carnival of Venice, like how far back are we talking historically?
I mean, it's really interesting because, we're talking way back to the Middle Ages.
Wow.
Like, some accounts even put it as early as 1162,
Wow.
which is,
It's a long time ago.
almost 1,000 years.
Wow. Almost 1,000 years of celebration.
Amazing.
That's incredible. Okay, so from the stuff you've read, like, when was kind of the most important period for the carnival?
I would say that, the 18th century was really like its peak.
Okay.
It really became like a huge symbol for Venice.
Okay.
It wasn't just this local festival anymore.
Right.
It attracted like European aristocracy.
Okay.
So it was like if you were doing like the grand tour of Europe,
Right.
Venice was the place to be.
Okay.
And Carnival was like the main event.
Got it.
It was all about extravagance and this blurring of like social classes.
Right. And that kind of leads us to talking about those masks, right?
Yes.
They're so iconic.
You're everything.
Do the image of the carnival.
Exactly.
What was their main purpose back in the day?
So they weren't just, for looks.
Right.
They were all about anonymity.
Yeah.
So it let people from different levels of society like interact
Interesting.
without, the normal social rules.
Ah, so like you could be a peasant.
Yeah.
I could be a lord.
But behind the mask.
Behind the mask,
Yeah.
we're equal.
We're equals.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was like a very unique dynamic, like a very revolutionary for the time.
I bet. And like, did any of the sources talk about like specific examples of that?
Yeah, I think there was one that talked about how nobles and commoners could like gamble together
Oh,
or flirt
that's interesting.
without knowing who each other really were.
That's fun. That's playful.
It was chaos.
Yeah. But it wasn't always, good times for the carnival, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
it was actually shut down a couple times.
Many times. Yeah, there were times when, it wasn't really allowed.
Yeah.
Napoleon famously shut it down in 1797.
Right.
And then later, the Austrians who were in charge kept it down too.
Oh, wow.
And even in the 1930s, it was stopped again.
It's so interesting how it like came and went and came and went.
Yeah,
That's
it shows
the-
you how important it was to Venice.
Right.
They kept wanting to bring it back.
Yeah.
It was like part of them.
Yeah. Okay. So 1979.
It's a big year.
Big year for the carnival.
Yeah.
It was revived.
Yeah.
So what was like the main reason they wanted to bring it back?
I think the main goal was to bring back like a key part of Venetian culture.
Okay.
It had been gone for so long.
Right.
They really wanted to reconnect with that tradition.
Right.
It was about like reclaiming their identity as Venetians.
Yeah.
And it worked.
It seemed to last.
It's been incredibly successful.
Yeah. It's huge now.
Okay.
And those masks and costumes that we were talking about before,
Yeah.
I mean, they're still like the main attraction, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like a historical
no,
thing. It's like
it's evolved.
it's still evolving.
Yeah. You see like amazing craftsmanship,
Right.
those old techniques,
Yeah.
but also like so much modern creativity.
So it's like a blend of old and new.
Yeah, it's like this conversation between the past and present.
I love that. And it's all happening like right there in the streets and the canals.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So besides like the visual stuff, like the masks and the costumes, what are some of the biggest events at the carnival?
Well, there are a few things. There are these costume competitions.
Okay.
Which are just incredible. You see some amazing artistry there.
Wow.
There are masked balls.
Fancy.
Very fancy.
Okay.
Very 18th century.
Uh-huh.
And then there's just like street performances everywhere.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's just this very lively atmosphere,
Yeah, I bet. Okay, and one of the things I've always seen pictures of is the Flight of the Angel.
Oh,
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, so it's this incredible spectacle. Basically, a performer descends on a zip line
Okay.
from the bell tower of St. Mark's Basilica.
No way.
Yeah, all the way down to Piazza San Marco.
Wow.
So it's like a really dramatic visual event.
That sounds incredible.
Very symbolic, of the whole carnival.
I bet. Okay, so it sounds like the Carnival of Venice is so much more than just a pretty party.
Oh, for sure.
It's like really tied to the history and the art and like the soul of Venice.
Exactly. It's like a living, breathing piece of Venetian tradition.
Yeah.
It reflects centuries of art and culture and how resilient Venice has been, and now it's this global attraction.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it blends history with modern creativity.
So good. Okay, so I think in our little crash course here,
Yeah,
we've covered the beginning of the carnival way back in the Middle Ages.
right.
We've talked about the 18th century when it was like the place to be.
The golden age.
Yeah, and how those masks, broke down social barriers.
It was a different world.
Yeah, and how it was shut down and then revived, over and over.
Such an interesting history.
Yeah, and how those masks and costumes and events like the Flight of the Angel
Yeah.
are still so important.
Are iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the Carnival of Venice is like a time machine, right?
Totally. It takes you back in time.
Yeah.
It's the celebration of beauty and art,
Yeah.
that just keeps drawing people in.
That's incredible.
And it makes you think, like, what is it about history and culture that we find so fascinating?
Yeah, that's a great question to ponder.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for diving into the Carnival of Venice with us.
Of course.
Until next time.
See you then. Bye.